Well, hello everybody, welcome back to PW IELTS and TOEFL Prep. My name is Vandana and this is IELTS Premier League. How have you been guys, all of you here? क्या हाल चाल हैं आप लोगों के? It's been a while. Okay, so in today's session, we are going to be diving deep into IELTS listening. The last time we also again did IELTS listening, but that was notes completion question type. Today we are doing a little more advanced stuff which troubles you a little bit. So I have intentionally taken the questions which are troublesome for my students, and the questions are multiple choice questions and match the features, the kind of level that you get in IELTS Part 3. And I know how much trouble you feel in IELTS Listening Part 3. So that's exactly what we have on the agenda today. So let's quickly get started. And the very first thing we are going to focus upon are some tips exclusively for the third part. Okay, so here you go. All right, so many times in MCQs, what happens is the main trap is in the main question. So many times the main trap is in the main question. Now, what do I mean by this, that main trap is in the main question? Look at this example. So the question here says Carla and Rob. So you have two names here. Carla and Rob were surprised to learn that coastal cities A, B, C. A says contain nearly half of the world's population. B, include most of the world's largest cities. C, are growing twice as fast as other cities. So what's the trap here? Very good afternoon, Bhavya. How are you? I'm sure you are doing very well. Right. So we are discussing the main traps that usually are in the main questions in the third part of MCQs. Now what happens is usually students feel that out of three options, दो तो refuse होने वाले हैं. And yes, I do tell you that keep your ears open for the refusal. But what if they don't refuse anything? What if all the options are true? In that case, how would you decide that what is the right option? Right? Okay, great, Bhavya. That's nice to know. In that case, look here. The question says Carla and Rob were surprised to learn that coastal cities. Now, out of these three options, probably two would be such which they are not surprised about. But whatever option, for whatever option they say that, okay, I was not expecting this. That means that is the unexpected stuff, and that's your answer. So this is just one example that I have taken here, but there are n number of such examples I have seen, especially in part 3 in MCQs, where I keep telling my students that, look, this is the main question and this is the main trap. So always look for the main trap in the main question. But it doesn't mean that you are not going to read the options in the reading time. Please read the options also, firstly. Secondly, like I said, that the main question will have the main trap. That brings me to my next point, that what exactly this trap is. What do you think this word surprised is? This is an adjective. This is an adjective. So please focus on adverbs and adjectives. I'm going to be talking about adjectives and adverbs, how to recognize them quickly. But yes, they are super important. Using adverbs and adjectives, they throw traps at you. Okay, now let's move forward. Okay, these are some more tips here. Be careful when the question mentions what do both students agree or disagree with. For example, in the question, there was Carla and Rob. These were the two names. If the question says that what do both students agree with? A, B, C, right? And in this case, if they are talking about all three options and they are not refusing any option, then how would you decide that what's your answer? Maybe in that case, A is an option that only Carla agrees with. B is an option which only Rob agrees with. Your answer is going to be C, where both Carla and Rob agree. So because this word both comes, what do both students agree or disagree with? Be alert. Next one, I've written about adjectives and adverbs here. So, बहुत सिंपल सा टॉपिक है एडजेक्टिव्स एंड एडवर्ब्स का, बहुत बेसिक सा टॉपिक है इंग्लिश ग्रामर में, राइट? बट देर आर, अगर नहीं थोड़ा सा कंफ्यूजन है ना, So I would recommend that learn about ed and ing adjectives. For example, look at this list I've written here. Some commonly used adjectives include surprised, predicted, worried, frustrated, moved. These all are ed adjectives, and these ones, demanding, confusing, these are ing adjectives. So बहुत ही interesting topic है ये grammar का, ed and ing adjectives, and this is one of the advanced topics also, ed and ing adjectives. You should know about these adjectives, right? Next one, also they play games using adverbs. I keep on telling my students that notice उन्होंने question में originally लिखा हुआ है. Originally means they are talking about past, how this park was originally formed. That means they are taking you back in time, originally कैसे ये park form हुआ था. And you are choosing an option which is talking about present. How can that be a correct answer? So these kind of words which tell you about the time of something nowadays means present. First also means they are taking you back in time. So notice these words. These are some usual traps, guys. Moving on, focus on the student's name in the main question. For example, if the question is about Jake's opinion, the other student's opinion, say Claire's or Carla, would act as a distractor. Now, this tip is just the opposite of the first one. The first one says, what if both the students agree with something? Now, if both is written in the question, you need to be alert and you need to select an option where both students are agreeing or disagreeing with. But what if the question is talking about just Carla's opinion? In that case, if Rob also gives his opinion, that's irrelevant. That's a distractor. You focus only on Carla's opinion. Okay, moving on. Okay, now some usual tips which I give you in all listening classes. It's vital to read main questions as well as given options before the audio starts. It's super important. If we trainers also don't do this, we won't be able to give the correct answer. It's very important to read not only the main questions but also the given options as well. And I've seen a lot many times students only read the main questions because they feel कि टाइम सफिशिएंट नहीं है. यू नीड टू बक अप. आपको स्पीड बढ़ानी पड़ेगी रीडिंग, बट इट्स इंपॉर्टेंट टू रीड ऑप्शंस एज वेल एज मेन क्वेश्चंस बोथ. And yes, for match the features question type, there will be more options than you need, and this we will see today. You need 6 answers and they have given you 8 options. We will deal with this. So those 2 extra are going to be thrown at you as distractors just to confuse you. And you very well know now that the language is going to be paraphrased. So you are not supposed to expect the same words in the audio that are mentioned in the prompts. Do not focus just on tidbits. This is one of the very common mistake that students do. Very common. What do I mean by this? अगर ये question है ना, for example, the moment a student hears world's largest cities, the student will mark this as the answer. ऐसे नहीं होता भाई. You'll have to understand the entire talk. Probably they are going to refuse it or they are simply not surprised about it. They know it already. So just because that phrase is spoken doesn't mean that's your answer. I will repeat. Just because a few words are spoken from that option doesn't mean that is your answer. Okay? Right. So I hope that made sense till here. Moving on. Let's get started with the very first practice exercise now. So it would be great if you guys could post your answers as you usually do. You are my very diligent students here. So it would be great if you could post your answers here in the chat box, and then we will discuss and we'll understand if there are any problem areas, we'll discuss those. Okay. So the very first thing, because this is first exercise, I'll be reading all the questions, I'll be highlighting the keywords, and then I'll play the audio. But when I'm doing this, when I'm reading the questions, you also read them carefully with me. Here you go. Okay, just a sec. Right, so MCQs, look at the very first question. It says, oh, what the heck? Right, okay. Okay, so how does Claire feel about the students in her year 12 science class? So how does Claire feel? Okay, A, worried. Now look at how many adjectives you have here. Worried that they are not making progress. B, challenged, another adjective, ed adjective, challenged by their poor behavior in class. Frustrated, another adjective, at their lack of interest in the subject. Next question. How does Jake react to Claire's suggestion about an experiment based on children's diet? Be careful. This is about Jake's reaction. This is about Jake's reaction on Jake's reaction on Claire's suggestion. So be careful. This is a trap here. Okay. Question says he's concerned that the results might not be meaningful. He feels some of the data might be difficult to obtain. C, he suspects that the conclusions might be upsetting. All three options have adjectives which I've highlighted. Next, what problem do they agree? That means both of them. What problem do they agree may be involved in an experiment involving animals? So A, any results may not apply to humans. B, it may be complicated to get permission. C, students may not be happy about animal experiments. And 24th, what question do they decide the experiment should address? A, are mice capable of controlling their food intake? B, does an increase in sugar lead to health problems? C, how much do supplements of different kinds affect health? 25th question, Claire might also consider doing another experiment involving A, other types of food supplement, B, different genetic strains of mice, C, varying amounts of exercise. So this is MCQs. Once we are done with these 5 questions, there will be a pause of about 20 to 30 seconds in which I will change the slide and we'll come to these questions. Now this is your flow chart completion. It's interesting. Let's first read the questions and then we'll understand, okay? So here it says, look at the instructions. Choose 5 answers from the box. So that means these are the options given to you, A to H. And they have given how many options to you? 8 options. But how many answers do you need? Just 5. So the extra ones are going to be thrown at you as distractors. Number 1. Number 2, let's first read the questions and then we'll talk more about it. So it says choose mice which are all the same dash, same what, okay, same color, same age, same what, look for that. Divide the mice. Now here guys, logic also works. देखो, grammar तो जाएगी ही जाएगी. Grammatical sense of course is something that you cannot ignore. For example, let's talk about logic. Choose mice which are all the same dash. We can't say choose mice which are all the same cereal. That does not have any logic. So this will also help you in eliminating the wrong options. Okay. Next one here says, okay, divide the mice into 2 groups, each with a different dash, and then put each group in a separate cage. Feed group A commercial mouse food. Feed group B the same but also sugar contained in dash. Next question, take measurements using an electronic scale. Place them in a weighing chamber to prevent dash. Do all necessary dash. Now listen up. Many times I told you about logic. Some of the options you can straight away eliminate by applying logic कि यहाँ पर calculations नहीं जा रहा है, यहाँ पे serials नहीं जा रहा है. You can straight away eliminate them easily. Number 1. Number 2, one mistake that students do in such question type is they don't bother reading this area. This I mentioned the last time also. They don't bother reading this area where they don't see a blank, but confuse हो जाओगे. If you are doing this question and after that straight away you are jumping to this without reading what's written in the middle, you will get confused. So it's important to read these areas also where you don't see a blank. And finally, very important, if you think that my answer number 26 is, let's say, size, and you write size for answer number 26, that's going to be marked wrong, because look at the instructions. They are saying choose correct letter. That means your answer number 26 could be A, but not size. Okay, guys, I hope that made sense. Now let's get started. I'm playing the audio and be super focused. And here we go.
Part 3. You will hear a trainee science teacher called Claire talking about her practical teaching work to another trainee called Jake. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25.
Hi, Jake. How are you getting on with the practical teaching?
It's harder than I expected, but I've got some great classes. How about you?
Not brilliant. I'm really struggling with my Year 12 science class.
Are they hard to control?
Well, I don't have discipline problems as such. It's just that they don't seem to think that science has anything to do with their lives. It's depressing. They listen to what I say, and I gave them a test last week, and the results weren't too bad. But there's no real engagement.
Right.
And as part of my teaching practice, I have to design an experiment for them to do. I was wondering about something on the children's diets, asking them to record what they eat and maybe linking it to their state of health.
Let's think. So your methodology would involve the children recording what they eat, okay, but you'd also need to have access to the children's medical records, and I don't think people would be happy about that. Confidentiality would be an issue. If you could get the right data, the conclusions might be significant, but I suspect it's not going to be easy.
Right.
Have you thought about doing an experiment using animals?
Wouldn't that be upsetting for the children?
Well, the animals don't have to be harmed in any way. It could just be an experiment where they're given a certain diet and the effects are observed.
Would I have to get permission to use animals?
Yes, you'd have to submit an outline of the experiment and fill in a form, but it's quite straightforward.
But if we found out that, say, a particular diet affects the health of animals, the same thing wouldn't necessarily be true for people, would it?
No, that's true. But the findings for any experiment are going to be limited. It's inevitable.
I suppose so. So, what animals could I use to investigate the effects of diet? Mice?
Yes, you'd need experimental mice, ones that have been specially bred for experiments. Okay, so what will your experiment be investigating exactly?
Well, something to do with nutrition. So maybe we could look at food supplements, things like extra iron and extra protein, and their impact on health.
That might be rather broad. Maybe just look at the effects of one supplement, like sugar, on the health of the mice.
In fact, maybe the focus could be on whether mice can control their own diet.
So what happens when they have access to more sugar that they don't really need?
Exactly. Do they eat it, or do they decide to leave it?
Great. Then later on, you could do a follow-up experiment adding another variable. Like, you could give some of the mice the chance to be more active, running on a wheel or something, and the others just sit around and don't do much.
Or I could repeat the experiment, but change the type of food I provided, or use mice with a different genetic structure. But I think your idea would be more interesting. I might think about that some more.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, You have some time to look at questions 26 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30.
So, can I talk through a possible procedure for the experiment where mice are given a sugar supplement?
Sure. I did a similar experiment in college, actually.
Great. So, how many mice would I need?
I'd say about 12, and all young ones, not a mixture of old and young.
Okay. And I'd need 2 groups of equal sizes, so 6 in each group. And how would I tell them apart? I suppose I could put some sort of tag on one group or just mark them in some way.
You could use food colouring, that wouldn't hurt them.
Perfect. Then each group would go into a separate cage, and one group, let's call them Group A, would be the control group. So they'd just have ordinary mouse food. I suppose you can buy that?
Yes, it comes in dry pellets.
And the other group would have the same as the first group, but they'd also have the extra sugar.
Would you just give them straight sugar?
It might be better to give them something like cereal with it.
Then you'd need to weigh the mice, I should think, once a week. And you'd need an electronic balance.
But we can't hold them on the balance, or it'd affect the reading.
Exactly. So you need something called a weighing chamber to stop the mice from running away. It sounds complicated, but actually you can just use a plastic box with holes in the top.
Okay. So once we've measured the weight gain of each mouse, we can work out the average for each group, as well as the standard deviation, and then see where we go from there. That sounds cool. I think the students will enjoy it.
Yes. One thing you must remember.
That is the
All right, guys. So let's see your answers. Okay, Rohit, you are also here. Okay, so C, B, A, B, C. Okay, what about the rest of you? First, others also post, and then we'll discuss. So Rohit says C. Okay, 26 to 30, all right. Fine. What about your answers? Okay, let's discuss, okay? So moving on here, if you heard correctly, and I'm sure you did, C is the right answer. A and B were refused. B says, challenged by their poor behavior in the class, she used the word discipline. She said, I'm not really concerned with the discipline aspect, or I'm not struggling with the discipline aspect. Worried that they are not making progress, she said that they are scoring well. Something like that was mentioned. So they are scoring well. So these two were refused. Moving on, how does Jake react to Claire's suggestion about an experiment based on children's diet? The right option is B, because very clearly he was suspicious about getting the data. He said he feels some of the data might be difficult to obtain. The word here used by him was confidential, that some of such medical data regarding children's diet could be confidential and people would not be willing to share it easily. So B here. What problem do they agree may be involved in an experiment involving animals? So C says students may not be happy about animal experiments. This was something, see, now they both need to agree with. Now this option, C option, was mentioned only by Claire. Jake refused it. He said you don't really need to hurt the animals. B said it may be complicated to get permission. This was also refused because Jake said that the method, yes, you will have to take the permission, but the method of getting permission is straightforward. Straightforward means easy hai, easily mil jayegi permission, whereas it says complicated. That means the right answer is A. Any results may not apply to human. So what about the rest of you? 24 and 25. What question do they decide the experiment should address? Are mice capable of controlling their food intake? Does an increase in sugar lead to health problems? So initially C was mentioned by Claire, but then Jake refused it. He said that this is too broad. Maybe you can focus on one supplement, and then Jake mentioned this, uh, focusing only on sugar. But then finally they decided on this, that are mice capable of controlling their own food intake? So that was something they decided. And finally, Claire might also consider doing another experiment involving other types of food supplement, different genetic strains of mice, varying amounts of exercise. What's your answer here? I only have Rohit's answer. And yes, it's correct. So Rohit, I believe that here you got 4 correct, isn't it? 24th is confusing for you. Okay, let's play this thing once again quickly. Here you go.
That is the end.
Just give me a sec.
But it's quite straightforward.
But if we found out that, say, a particular diet affects the health of animals, the same thing wouldn't necessarily be true for people, would it?
No, that's true. But the findings for any experiment are going to be limited. It's inevitable.
I suppose so. So, what animals could I use to investigate the effects of diet? Mice?
Yes, you'd need experimental mice, ones that have been specially bred for experiments. Okay, so what will your experiment be investigating exactly?
Well, something to do with nutrition. So maybe we could look at food supplements, things like extra iron and extra protein, and their impact on health.
That might be rather broad. Maybe just look at the effects of one supplement, like sugar, on the health of the mice.
In fact, maybe the focus could be on whether mice can control their own diet.
So, what happens when they have access to more sugar that they don't really need?
Exactly. Do they eat it, or do they decide to leave it?
Great. Then later on, you could.
Was it clear this time? He said, so this was what was mentioned by Claire. She wanted to see whether they can control their own food intake, and Jake agreed. He said, great. I hope this made sense this time, Rohit. Let's move ahead and focus on 26 till 30. All right, perfect, Rohit. So your answers here are C, H, E, B, F. Absolutely. C means age. Choose mice which are all the same age, that means. Divide the mice into 2 groups, each with a different color. Yes, they talked about food coloring. And it says feed group B the same but also sugar content in cereal. Yes, E. And then it says place them in a weighing chamber to prevent escape. That is B. Finally, do all necessary calculations. That is F. So CHEBF. Perfect. All right. That means 9 out of 10, Rohit. Excellent job as usual. Yes. KA facts. Yes, please. How can I help you? So, fine. Any queries in this exercise, guys? Otherwise, I'll be moving ahead with the next one. Shall we? And in the next one, do you want me to highlight the keywords? And speaking of keywords, by the way, when I was discussing tips that focus on adjectives, did you notice how many adjectives we have in these MCQs? There are quite a few. Worried, challenged, frustrated. All these 3 are adjectives. Concerned is adjective here. And difficult and upsetting is also adjective. Uh, so there are quite a few. Complicated is adjective. Happy is adjective. So that's what I'm saying. Focus on adjectives in MCQs. Let's move ahead, and here we go. Okay. You want to do it yourself without me reading and highlighting the keywords? Let's do it that ways. But yeah. So previously, on the previous slide, you had MCQs which had 3 options and you had to select 2. Here, out of a list of 5 options, you have to, so there you had to select 1 answer. Here you have to select 2 answers out of a list of 5 options. Okay, so 21 till 24 questions are here. I'll be playing the audio. This DIY, you are going to do it yourself. Let's proceed and take a look at match the features here. There will be a 30-second pause after we are done with this, in which I'll change the slide and you are required to read this really in a very rushed up manner. You will have to read all this. Do not forget to read the main question at the top, and you have 6 questions for which they have given you 8 options because they love you so much. They like confusing you. That is why 2 extra. So here you go. Let's get started.
You will hear 2 food science students called Marie and Colin discussing their final year projects. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 24. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 20. Answer questions 21 to 24.
I haven't seen you for a bit, Marie.
No, I've been busy with my project.
You're making a vegan alternative to eggs, aren't you? Something that doesn't use animal products.
Yes, I'm using chickpeas. I had 2 main aims when I first started looking for an alternative to eggs, but actually I found chickpeas have got more advantages.
Right.
But how about your project on reusing waste food? You were looking at bread, weren't you?
Yes, it's been hard work, but I've enjoyed it. The basic process was quite straightforward, breaking the stale bread down to a paste, then reforming it.
But you were using 3D printing, weren't you, to make the paste into biscuits?
Yeah, I'd used that before, but in this project I had time to play around with different patterns for the biscuits and finding how I could add fruit and vegetables to make them a more appetizing colour, and I was really pleased with what I managed to produce.
It must have been a great feeling to make something appetizing out of bits of old bread that would have been thrown away otherwise.
It was. And I'm hoping that some of the restaurants in town will be interested in the biscuits. I'm going to send them some samples.
I came across something on the internet yesterday that might interest you. It was a company that's developed touch-sensitive sensors for food labels.
Hmm.
It's a special sort of label on the food package. When the label's smooth, the food is fresh. And then when you can feel bumps on the label, that means the food's gone bad. It started off as a project to help visually impaired people know whether food was fit to eat or not.
Interesting. So, just solid food?
No, things like milk and juice as well. But actually, I thought it might be really good for drug storage in hospitals and pharmacies.
Right. And coming back to food, maybe it'd be possible to use it for other things besides freshness, like how many kilograms a joint of meat is, for example.
Yes, there's all sorts of possibilities.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 25 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 25 to 30.
I was reading an article about food trends predicting how eating habits might change in the next few years.
Oh, things like more focus on local products. That seems so obvious, but the shops are still full of imported foods.
Yes, they need to be more proactive to address that.
And somehow motivate consumers to change, yes.
One thing everyone's aware of is the need for a reduction in unnecessary packaging. But just about everything you buy in supermarkets is still covered in plastic. The government needs to do something about it.
Absolutely. It's got to change.
Do you think there'll be more interest in gluten and lactose-free food?
For people with allergies or food intolerances. I don't know. Lots of people I know have been buying that type of food for years now.
Yes, even if they haven't been diagnosed with an allergy.
That's right. One thing I've noticed is the number of branded products related to celebrity chefs. People watch them cooking on TV and then buy things like spice mixes or frozen foods with the chef's name on. I bought something like that once, but I won't again.
Yeah, I bought a ready-made spice mix for chicken, which was supposed to be used by a chef I'd seen on television, and it didn't actually taste of anything.
Did the article mention ghost kitchens used to produce takeaway food?
No, what are they?
Well, they might have the name of a restaurant, but actually they're a cooking facility just for delivery meals. The public don't ever go there. But people aren't aware of that. It's all kept very quiet.
So people don't realise the food's not actually from the restaurant.
Right?
Did you know more and more people are using all sorts of different mushrooms now to treat different health concerns? Things like heart problems.
They might be taking a big risk there.
Yes, it's hard to know which varieties are safe to eat. Anyway, maybe now.
All right, guys, let's see your answers quickly. Rohit has posted the first 4 already. KA Facts, I would like to know the actual name that you have so I can address you like that with your actual name. And let's talk about your problem. You are saying I've taken the exam twice, but I'm struggling with the reading section. Can you please help me? Also, I took it a 3rd time, but I have not received my result yet. However, I feel that I may not get the score I need. Can you help me? Okay. Firstly, in such cases, when the student has taken the exam a third time for one specific module, because the student is troubled with one specific module, there is usually something very specific which the student does wrong, and which we or I need to understand in order to guide you. Firstly, now I don't know exactly what you are doing wrong, so it depends from case to case, but I don't know your case. Even then, let me try to help you. I don't know where you practiced reading from, but this time, I hope you get your result the third time. If you don't, God forbid, in that case, I want you to take your reading mock tests. Okay, first one, you will take your reading mock test. Number two, you are not going to take your reading mock test from anywhere else other than Cambridge books, only and only Cambridge books. And I would suggest that if you are an academic student, take Cambridge Academic. If you are general, then Cambridge General. If you are academic student and you are practicing from general, that would not be good, because the level of general is easier and the level of academic IELTS is higher. It's little more advanced. So you got my point here. Number two, Cambridge books, yes. Number three, when you take your mock test, sit with a time tracker and put the pen down the moment alarm of that 1 hour goes up, because on your day of exam you get only 1 hour for reading module, so you are not going to take more than 1 hour. You need to be completely honest and strict with yourself. Okay, so set a timer of 1 hour and put the pen down the moment alarm goes off. And then once the alarm is off, and once the alarm goes and you put your pen down, then check two things. Number one, see, have you been able to complete 40 questions? Yes or no? In case yes, you have completed 40 questions in 1 hour, well done. If no, that means you need to work on your speed. And usually speed tab नीचे जाती है students की when they don't know how to do skimming and scanning. If the speed is a problem, then understand how to do skimming and scanning. Okay, but if speed is not a problem, then I want you to zero in on the question type where you are goofing up. For example, there are some students who goof up only in true false not given. Some of them goof up only in list of headings. So make a list of those questions where you are goofing up. Let's say you are goofing up in list of headings and MCQs both. In that case, I want you to do repeated practice of MCQs and list of headings. And final, I hope you are noting down all these pointers. Final thing, जो अगर नहीं करी तो लेवल वहीं का वहीं रहेगा, चाहे आप जितने भी mock test ले लो. The final thing is, when you are doing all this, when you are taking a mock test, check your answers from, obviously you will check your answers given at the back of the book. And when you realize that, okay, I scored 24 out of 40, that means 16 incorrect. Please do not let those mistakes slide by. Go back and just see the justification. Understand that, okay, मैंने तो true लिखा था, but why this is false. Understand the traps and then move ahead and take the second mock test. Only that's how you improve. Thank you very much, Rohit. I really appreciate that. Karishma, okay. Karishma, I hope that made sense. If you were able to hear the entire monologue I just delivered, I hope that made sense. If not, then of course it will be there in the recording. 2-3 मिनट का टाइम निकाल के देख लेना ये सारी टिप्स, इनको लिख लेना और इस हिसाब से प्रैक्टिस करना. You will get your score. Don't worry. Okay. चलो, let's focus on these answers now. Okay. It says which two things, देखो यहाँ पे आपका ट्रैप है ये. Most satisfying. It says which two things did Colin find most satisfying about his bread reuse project, right? Now the answers here are B and D. These are the things that he found most satisfying. He did talk about E also, but nothing related to satisfaction here. And he said, I'm hoping. So this is his hope. That means he's hoping कि ये future में हो जाएगा. Again, that means he's not satisfied as yet about it, because he's hoping कि ऐसा होगा future में. So these two were your distractors. Moving on to 23 and 24. Here, the right answers, guys, are A and E. Look, the question says, which two ways do the students agree, as in both of them? students agree that touch sensitive sensors for food labels could be developed in future. This is your trap, in future. Now they did talk about other options. This is about present, okay? They did talk about visually impaired people, but this is the present scope of this touch sensitive device. But the question is about future. This also they mentioned, but this is also how this device helps them at present. So A and E are the right answers here. I hope that's making sense. Academic overall, academic 6.5 in listening, 7.5 in speaking, 6 in writing. 6 आ गए writing में, okay, and reading में 5.5. I understand. You do practice the way I said. It will definitely make an impact, because when you follow the steps that I just spoke, Karishma, I have seen students going from 5.5 to 7 bands. एंड आई एम नॉट जोकिंग, मैंने देखे हैं बहुत सारे केसेस ऐसे, एग्जैक्टली आपके जैसे केसेस जहां पे स्टूडेंट 5.5 पे स्टक है, बट देन दे स्टार्ट प्रैक्टिसिंग यूजिंग द स्टेप्स आई जस्ट मेंशन्ड एंड दे गो अप फ्रॉम 5.5 टू 7 बैंड्स विद इन स्पैन ऑफ 15-20 डेज में हो जाता है वो. But 15-20 days of consistency is what you need. Okay, right, moving on. Let me know if anybody wants me to play this bit once again. Okay, moving on. The right answer here is D. It says retailers should do more to encourage this. Then it's G. There should be stricter regulations about this, reduction in unnecessary packaging. Gluten-free and lactose-free food is C. This already seems to be widespread. And then use of branded products related to celebrity chefs. This they were disappointed about, both of them. And development of ghost kitchens for takeaway food. It's a very interesting term, guys. ये आप अपनी speaking में भी use कर सकते हो. I always like pick up language and phrases and idioms from listening module also, and then I use it in my speaking. You can also do that. So ghost kitchen means cloud kitchen. You just order food from Swiggy and Zomato kind of thing, but you are not really ordering from a restaurant. They just have a kitchen and they serve from there. They deliver food from there. So that's the concept of ghost kitchen, which is becoming very popular, but the term is very interesting here. Anyway, let's not bore you to death. It says most people know little about this. So F here. And finally, use of mushrooms dangerous, H. Let me know your score, and also let me know, most welcome Karishma. Also let me know if you want me to play any bit of the second exercise once again, guys. Okay, that sounds like a no. Okay, in that case, let's proceed and wrap it up. I'll be seeing you very soon in the next lecture. Till then, take care, keep practicing and keep nailing it. Bye-bye. Take care. Bye.